Are you wanting to grow your own vegetable garden this season and need some fast vegetables that will be ready really soon? Today we're going to look at the best ones for you. G'day there, I'm Dana from Pewaka Valley Homestead. Today we're going to look at the 20 fastest vegetables that you can grow in your garden that will give you a good harvest really quickly. Now you'll notice today I'm hiding in my husband's music studio because we're all at home at the moment. And this is the only place I can find that doesn't have people yelling. There are children everywhere. And my husband's working in one of the kids' bedrooms. So here we are. So hopefully the sound in here is okay. We'll give it a go. Now, if you are wanting to grow your own vegetable garden, if you're stuck at home like we are and would like something that will grow nice and fast, I have got the best 20 plants that will grow really quickly for you. Probably the 5 fastest ones, the fastest vegetables get off the ground. Radish probably hands down would be the quickest. You can often sow radish and have them in your hand ready to eat within 3 weeks, which is really, really fast. Arugula, also known as rocket, it's a peppery sort of salad green. It is ready usually in sort of 3 to 4 weeks. You can start getting baby leaves off there. And things like tatsoi and a few other salad greens, they will grow really quickly as well. Now there are a few things that your garden will need to have so that your plants get off to the very best start. If you want to get the optimum growth out of your seedlings and out of your seeds, you're going to need to make sure, one, that it's warm enough. If your soil is not warm enough, if it's still freezing a lot, if there might even still be snow on the ground, it's not warm enough yet to get decent growth out of these plants. However, you can grow them in pots inside or in a tunnel house or somewhere sheltered, and you can get them started for sure. Most plants will need at least 10 degrees Celsius, which I think is 50 degrees Fahrenheit. One moment. Yes, 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Not very good with the Fahrenheits. Most plants will need 10 degrees Celsius, 50 degrees Fahrenheit soil temperatures quite regularly for the plants to actually germinate. Some will germinate even if it's colder than that, something like what we call broad beans, which are also known as fava beans. Yes. They will germinate. We often plant them in fall and they will germinate over the winter, and so when spring comes they'll start growing. Things like peas, they will often grow even though it's quite cold. Most seeds will need at least that warm soil to get going. Other plants like your peppers and your tomatoes, eggplants, those sorts of things, they actually need much hotter temperatures to germinate. Once they're germinated, they'll grow in cooler temperatures, but they need much warmer temperatures to get germinated. The other thing you'll need for your plants to grow really nice and quickly is plenty of nutrients available to them. The best way of doing that is making sure that your garden has got plenty of rotted compost or well-rotted manure added to it. If you don't have these things, you can liquid feed your plants regularly, at least once a week, with an organic liquid feed. You can either make this at home yourself by soaking some manure in a big barrel of water, or you can buy it pre-prepared in a bottle that you dilute. The other thing the plants will need is moist soil, but not heavily sodden soil and not really dry soil. So it has to be sort of that balance in between. If your soil was really cluggy and heavy and damp, your plants will really struggle to get the nutrients that they need, and they'll struggle to get the air at the roots. So you can sort of mitigate this a little bit by digging the soil and loosening it up, definitely by digging through some organic matter, and even better would be to create some raised beds and get your plants up off the ground. If your seeds that you're trying to germinate dry out, they will shrivel and die, and if your seeds are kept too wet, they'll rot. So the trick with growing from seed is to just keep them gently moist. As they're growing, you also want to keep your leafy greens regularly watered, at least twice a week, if not more so, because this will help them stop being bitter and help stop them bolting off to seed, which means you'll get the best harvest from them. The other thing you'll need to know is what your climate's doing and when your last frost date is. A lot of these plants will grow better after your last frost date. Some of them, the frost will kill them. So it's good to know. It's really easy to find out your last frost date. All you need to do is Ask Google, use your where you live at the moment and type in the words last frost date, hit enter, and it will usually tell you exactly when your last frost date is. It's also important to know when your place gets really hot, because there are some plants that just don't do well in the extreme heat. So your brassicas will do a lot better in the cooler side. So they do better in early spring and fall than they do growing in the hot of the summer. If you grow them in the heat of the summer, they will tend to just bolt off to seed. The other thing your plants are going to need to grow really, really well is no pests. So keep an eye on them. If you spot anything like aphids or anything eating at them, give them a good spray with some soapy water. That's usually enough to knock aphids and caterpillars off. If you've got problems with slugs, sprinkling around some of the organic iron-based slug pellets or some crushed up eggshells, both of those things usually work really well to keep your slugs away. Obviously, the best way of getting rid of slugs is to put your headlamp on and go out in the night time and gather them up. And then you can either throw them to the chickens or just chuck them in a bucket of water and no more slugs. Right, the 20th fastest growing crops. Are you ready? Number 1 on my list, they're in alphabetical order, just for those type A's out there like myself, would be arugula, also known as rocket. It's a spicy leafy green that you often add to like a salad mix. It grows really quickly. Usually they're ready to eat within 3 to 4 weeks, sometimes up to 5 weeks. They make a really good cut and come again sort of green. So you grow them, cut them off, let them grow again. And you can do that multiple times with arugula. Number 2 would be beets. Of course, you can use the baby beet leaves again as a salad green, and you can wait for the roots to develop and then use the beet root, either preserved or roasted or even grated in salad. I've seen it fermented. There's lots of uses that you have for beets. Beets, if you're just using them for the tops, are usually ready within 3 or 4 weeks. If you're wanting to wait for the roots to develop, they're usually closer to 70 days. I also have a video on canning beetroot, which I'll link up the top there. Number 3 on my list is a plant called broccoli rab, which is not actually a broccoli. It is a brassica, but it's not a broccoli like you would probably recognize. It does look similar, maybe more like turnip leaves, but it grows the broccoli stalks sort of, it won't grow a big head. It grows lots of smaller stalks which you can use just like broccoli, and they are ready usually within sort of 5-6 weeks, and they're ready to go. Number 4 on the list would be endive. Endive is not so well known. You'll often find the little leaves in like a salad mix at the store. There's sort of a slightly bitter lettuce looking thing. They're often sort of a long conical thing, and they can come bright red, bright green. They're quite cool looking stuff. You can eat them raw, or you can even steam them as a vegetable, and they will take just over a month, up to 2 months, depending on how big you want them to develop. Number 5 would be kale. Kale is everybody's favourite at the moment. Kale can be used as baby greens as a salad, and then you can leave it to grow longer. And if you always harvest from the bottom of the stalks and just leave the top stalk to keep growing, you can get about 6 months harvest off one planting of kale plants, because you can just keep harvesting them and they just keep growing taller and taller, and you just keep harvesting off the bottom of them. The first lot of kale will probably be ready within a month, and then if you're wanting the larger leaves, then they're probably closer to 2 months. Number 6 is another vegetable that you might not have heard of. It's called kohlrabi, which is a cousin of your broccolis and your kale, and it grows a sort of ball at the bottom of the stalk, and that's what you can eat. You can eat the leaves and stuff, but the aim of kohlrabi is to grow this sort of baseball-sized ball at the bottom that you can grate it into salads. You can cook it and mash it like a potato. It's got a plain flavour, but a really useful starchy ingredient. They take a little longer than like a kale does to mature. You're probably looking at 1.5 to 2 months to get a decent sized bulb off of the bottom of your kohlrabi. Plant number 7 would be lettuce. Lettuce, good old lettuce. Everybody loves some lettuce. If you're growing them from seed, which is really easy with lettuces, you'll be looking at sort of 1.5 to 2 months to be getting a good sized lettuce off them. If you're planting from transplants, you'll be getting them in closer to 3 to 4 weeks. Number 8 on the list is corn salad. Corn salad is a little leafed salad green that grows really quickly. It's quite tasty, sort of a soft, almost nutty flavour to it. And you can get a harvest from that in about 6 weeks. So you sow the seeds in the ground, keep them well moist, and within 6 weeks you'll have a cut and come again. So you can cut the tops off and they'll regrow. yummy little salad green. And corn salad works really well in underneath like your flower plants or in pots. Number 9 would be the old mesclun greens. Mesclun greens is not actually one specific plant, it's a mixture of greens that all grow relatively similar pace. They make a really nice cut and come again salad mix. A mesclun mix is usually about ready to pick sort of about a month from when you start sowing it, and you can cut and come again with it for at least a couple of weeks before you'll need to have another batch ready and coming on ready to use. Now the next two are both Asian greens. They're quite closely related. The first one being Mibuna. It's usually ready within 3 to 4 weeks. It's a sort of about a foot tall plant with sort of rounded leaves. You can eat them either steamed or in salads. Mizuna is the other one. It's also an Asian green. It's a little bit spicier and has sort of kind of scraggly looking leaves, I guess. Really pretty in a salad. Again, you can steam them as well or throw them in a stir fry. And they also take sort of about a month to 6 weeks to get going. Number 12 is mustard greens. So mustard greens are quite often used in Asian cooking. You can add them to a salad. They are quite spicy. They're a lot hotter than like a rocket. They are quite often steamed as a side dish. And the other thing mustard's really good for is to grow and then to dig into your soil as a green manure. So it's kind of one of those things that you can use for multiple uses. You can also leave them to go to seed, and then you can harvest the mustard seed. That is where our friend mustard comes from, is the seeds from the mustard plant. The little guy woke up from his nap. Onion greens are another thing that you can grow really quickly. If you sow onion seeds, just the bog standard onion seeds, and then after about a month or so you can start harvesting the little green shoots in between, and you can space them out so that you end up with plants that are about 4 inches apart, and leave those ones to turn into actual onions. And in the meantime, the onion greens used at different stages can be used as spring onions. So you just cut them up. When they're really small, you can use them more like a chive. Cut them thinly and put them through mashed potatoes or whatever, and then as they get a wee bit bigger, cut them and put them in salads and stir fries and those sorts of things. Pak choy is one of the bigger plants that you can grow that grows really fast. Again, it's an Asian green. It's more like a Chinese cabbage, and it grows, you probably get a good sized plant off of it within sort of 4 to 6 weeks. They grow really easily from seed. If you leave them to self-seed, they'll grow everywhere. They grow really quickly, really easily, and they're quite delicious. We like them just steamed to have with our meat or as a side dish. And they're always a bit of a favourite in the springtime because they just go so much faster than a lot of the other plants that we grow. Peas are another thing that you can get started. Again, they don't mind it being colder, so you can get them started sooner. And you can eat the pea shoots, which is a really nice addition to salad. They're quite sweet and tasty. And then you can start getting the actual pea pods themselves, usually sort of within 8 to 10 weeks. You can start getting peas within 8 to 10 weeks, but the shoots are definitely ready much sooner than that. Number 16 is the radish. We talked about that a wee bit already. Radishes are really great. You can sow them in amongst your carrot seeds, and radishes will come up and be ready and come out well before the carrots are even anywhere near ready to harvest. The upside to them is that they help space out your carrot seeds, so you don't have to do nearly so much thinning. And the other good thing is it helps mark your rows, because the radishes come up so early you can see exactly where your carrot rows actually are. Radishes are usually ready to eat within 3 to 4 weeks. So a really good idea for a family is to sow about 1/4 teaspoon of seeds every week or so, and then you'll just have a constant supply of radishes. There are so many different types of radishes that you can get. Some of them spicier than others. Our kids don't like the spicy ones, but they'll quite happily eat the non-spicy ones. So it's worth giving a try to a few different varieties, and they just look really fantastic in a salad. Spinach is the next on the list. Spinach will grow really well. It's incredibly versatile. You can use it as a cut and come again salad green, where you're just using the baby leaves and you sow them really thickly on the ground, and as they come up, use the scissors, cut them off as baby leaves, and they'll just keep regrowing. And then once you've done with that, you can leave them to mature. They grow much bigger leaves, and that's when you can use them, cook them, use them for whatever you want to use them for. Number 18 on our list is Swiss chard, what we know in New Zealand as silver beet. Silver beet can be used again as a very, very similar way to spinach can be. You use the baby leaves in salads, and then when they're a bit bigger, my friend makes a really good curried silver beet, where she cooks them up with some spices and some onion and some garlic in a pan. Really good. Silver beet soup is another one, really similar to like a spinach soup, I guess, but with lashings of garlic and a bit of potato. We don't like eating steamed silver beet very much. Swiss chard's a bit slimy for us, but we'll chuck it in other foods, or if I'm making a stew or something like that, or even sometimes a lasagna, cut up really fine and sneak it into the lasagna. Number 19 out of 20 would be tatsoi. Tatsoi is it's sort of a flat rosette shaped Asian green where you can, we usually steam it. It's the easiest way of eating it, really. Tatsoi will grow within sort of 3 to 4 weeks, really similar to a pak choi. It just sort of grows flatter rather than upright. And number 20 on the list is turnips. Turnips are great because you can use the greens as like a steamed green, and then you also have the harvest at the bottom. We grow one known as snowball, I think it's what it's called, and it's like it just grows. It's best if you eat it sort of in that small golf ball sort of size. It's really sweet and juicy. We like them raw. Sometimes I'll peel them. Oftentimes we just cut them up and eat them just like that. There are different varieties of turnips. Some of them grow quite a bit bigger, and then of course you can cook them, make like a mashed turnip. Mashed turnip with lots of bacon in it is really good, bacon and butter. So I hope you've found that really helpful. If you have, hit the like button and maybe consider subscribing to our channel. We bring videos twice a week on growing and preserving your own food and other homesteading bits and pieces. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one.